In this video, I'll continue to share research on meetings. My last video is about the meeting after the meeting. In this video, I focus on meetings. I'll try to answer two questions. What are purposes of meetings and how to run meetings effectively? Think about how much time you spent in meetings last week. On average, employees spent 6 hours each week in meetings. Managers spend even more time in meetings, with an average of 23 hours each week. That's more than half of the working hours each week. In extreme cases, managers spend up to 80% of their work time in meetings. Why do people spend so much time in meetings? Let's first look at the purposes of meetings. Meetings primarily serve 4 purposes. First, share information. Information is distributed among meeting attendees. The information may not necessarily be acted on by meeting attendees. An example is a weekly meeting for project updates. In those meetings, team members provide updates about what they worked on since the last meeting. Second, solve problems and make decisions. Attendees troubleshoot a new or unusual issue and may decide on how to resolve the issue. For example, a project runs into a hiccup. A team member calls a meeting to discuss how to address the problem, brainstorm solutions leveraging their different expertise, and create a plan for implementing the solution. Third, develop and implement organizational strategy. For example, a top management team meets to discuss organizational goals and values to establish an organizational strategy and develop plans. Fourth, debrief a team after a performance episode. Following an event or other milestone, a team discusses and reflects on what they expected to happen, what happened, what went well, and what could have been improved. Those 4 purposes are all instrumental for organizational performance. But more often, meetings derail individual and organizational effectiveness and well-being by demanding too much of employees' time, sometimes for little or no benefit. I've seen so many meetings that went awry. Why do many people dislike or avoid meetings in workplace? One reason is that meetings are poorly planned, structured, and run. Here I introduce recommended practices for before, during, and after the meetings. Before the meeting, you need to ask 3 questions. Is this meeting necessary? How to structure the meeting? Who should attend the meeting? First, is this meeting necessary? Many meetings occur when another form of communication would be more effective. If you want to share routine, non-urgent information but do not involve problem-solving, decision-making, or discussion, an email, a newsletter, or a video may suffice. You don't need to force everyone to stop what they are doing and go to a meeting. Meeting is a costly line item in budget. Why is the cost of meetings invisible when you look at a budget sheet? This is because the costs incurred by meetings is opportunity costs, which refer to the foregone benefit of an option not chosen. In the context of meetings, consider the time and money that can be invested to do the real work instead of sitting in the meetings for status reports. To create an inclusive and transparent work environment, you'd like to invite as many people to a meeting as possible. Have you ever calculated the opportunity costs of meetings at work? Suppose that you invite 4 people, Abby, Blake, Cindy, and Dante, to a meeting for 1 hour each week. In total, 5 people attend the meeting and 5 hours are spent in the meeting on a weekly basis. You then calculate each meeting goer's hourly salary and add it up. Consider each meeting goer works for about 1,920 hours a year. That's 40 hours times by 4 weeks times by 12 months. For one weekly meeting, it costs $10,550 a year. Now, consider the time and money that can be invested to do the real work. That's why meetings are one of the hidden line items in your organizational budget. If the meeting is about one-way information broadcasting, it can be done through emails, newsletters, and videos. There has been report about widespread inefficiency when it comes to workplace meetings. Some estimates indicate that as many as half of all meetings are rated as poor by attendees, with organizations wasting approximately $213 billion in ineffective meetings every year. Don't forget the opportunity costs when you call a meeting next time. If you need a meeting, remember that your meetings does not have to be 1 hour. Second, how to structure the meeting. A meeting agenda allows you to structure the meeting. At least 3 components should be included in the meeting agenda. First, the meeting agenda has specific topics. Second, the meeting agenda has a clearly defined desired outcome. Third, the meeting agenda has allocated time for discussion of each topic. All meeting attendees should have access to the meeting agenda before the meeting. Attendees should come to the meeting prepared and read the agenda to improve meeting quality and discussion. If you need attendees to prepare for the meeting, it is important to clarify to attendees how you'd like them to be prepared for the meeting. For example, bring in written suggestions to the meeting or sending their suggestions to you prior to the meeting. If there is a decision that needs to be decided in the meeting, I usually bold that item in the meeting agenda to give people a heads up. If possible, I'll specify what decision-making rules will be used to reach a group decision. Online meeting programs such as Zoom and WebEx allow you to post a meeting agenda. If it is a face-to-face meeting, an open space is a better meeting location than a windowless room. This is because an open space can prime people to think with an open mind and explore more options when it comes to decision-making. We should start the meeting on time, operate the meeting according to the meeting agenda, and end the meeting on time. Third, who should attend the meeting? Diverse viewpoints and expertise can generate better solutions during problem solving because they can generate a wide range of possible solutions. To improve transparency and keep people in the loop, some leaders make mistakes by inviting people to meetings that are not relevant to their work. This could be an expensive mistake, as I just showed you how to calculate the opportunity costs of meetings. Invite only people who are able to make meaningful contributions to the goal of the meeting. Effective meetings should include key personnel who possess the functional expertise required for the task at hand and who can provide relevant and important information. For others whose work are relevant to the issue discussed in the meetings, you can still achieve information transparency by sharing a detailed meeting minutes or talk to them afterwards and seek their input. Here is my checklist for tasks that needs to be done before the meeting. Send out necessary materials for attendees to read prior to the meeting. Invite the right attendees, not too many or too few. Ask the attendees to provide input to the meeting agenda. Clarify to attendees how you'd like them to be prepared for the meeting. For example, bringing written suggestions to the meeting or sending their suggestions to you prior to the meeting. Find an open space for the meeting. Test the meeting room and technology for quality conversation. What I just shared only set the meeting up for success. What happens during the meeting It's where the real challenge of meeting effectiveness comes into play. First, start the meeting on time. It shows respect for people's time. Second, turn off cell phones and computers before the meeting starts. The goal is to ensure that everyone pays attention and avoids distracting behaviors, such as emailing and texting. I know this is difficult for most people. Have you seen some meeting goers multitasking, sending emails and texting messages? Their attention is distracted, regardless of their denial. One way to convince people to turn off cell phones and computers is to tell them that the more efficient and more productive the meeting is, the earlier we can end the meeting. Use time in meetings wisely. Third, intervene when some attendees dominate the meeting at the expense of others. Make sure each group member has equal speaking time and turns. In meetings, high-power group members tend to speak more than low-power members do. Do not allow one vocal voice to dominate a group discussion. Encourage people who are less vocal to speak out and speak up. If a vocal member speaks 5 times in a group, then it is important that members who are less vocal have the same number of turns to speak in the meeting. The speaking turns make a difference in group information sharing. In my book on leaders' decision-making titled What Went Wrong, one of group decision-making biases I introduced is shared information bias. It refers to group members' tendency to discuss information that they all have access to while ignoring equally important information that is available to only a few of the members. When a group fails to discuss the information that is most useful to a decision, the decision quality suffers. In meetings, the shared information bias is magnified if a vocal member is allowed to speak 10 times, while less vocal members have only 1 time to speak. Fourth, invite diverse perspectives from attendees. Whether all meeting participants can contribute their views depends largely on the meeting leader's behavior and actions. Make a special effort to seek out unique information from low-status members. Status refers to social worth that originates from others' evaluation of prestige, respect, and esteem. The status of group members matters. Group members with lower status may have less confidence and therefore be unlikely to share unique information. By comparison, group members with high status were more likely to share more information. However, those with higher status tend to dominate the group discussion even when the information they have is not valid or important. Encourage people to participate and propose solutions to problems. In one study, people who participate in the meeting by bringing up problems related to poor work processes or performance feel less negative about their work a day after the meeting. Allow meeting goers, particularly low-status members, to speak freely and to participate in making decisions. Fifth, ensure attendees treat each other with respect. This is basic professionalism. 6. Keep side conversations at bay. Again, this is to show respect for whoever is talking in the meeting. Also, it ensures that everyone pays attention. 7th, stop counterproductive complaining. Whoever presides the meeting should quell complaining as early as possible. Meeting success often rests on the swift intervention and the clear direction that meeting leaders provide. Meeting leaders should encourage attendees to offer solutions. In meetings, when one person starts to complain by expressing so-called killer phrases that reflect futility or an unchangeable state, for example, nothing can be done about that issue or nothing works, other meeting attendees begin to complain. which starts a complaining cycle that can reduce group outcomes. Complaining without proposing solutions is dysfunctional in the meeting. Leaders must intervene as early as possible, otherwise complaining will drag the entire meeting into a rabbit hole. If complaining begins, the meeting leader should not participate in the complaining, but instead try to move discussion back to agenda items. 8. Refrain from revealing your preferences and views before everyone speaks. Remain impartial. Your role as a leader in the meeting is not to make your individual decisions. If so, you don't need to call a meeting and waste everyone's time. You can simply make your individual judgment call. If you call a meeting and share your decision-making power with meeting participants, you should show your respect to their expertise and views by allowing them to speak first. You should also refrain from exerting your undue influence on meeting participants. Again, a leader's role in meetings is to facilitate group discussions instead of making an individual decision or coercing other meeting participants to leaders' preference. 9th, keep clarifying and summarizing where things are so everyone understands the process and the discussion at hand. 10th, confirm with meeting attendees that your summary is accurate. In addition to the above 10-item checklist, at the end of the meeting, it is important to do 2 things. Have clear action items, along with the deadlines and who is responsible for what. Add to calendar when and who to follow up with the action items. Actions taken after a meeting ends can make or break attendees' perceptions of meeting success. When meeting leaders do not follow up after the meeting, nothing happens, and the meeting becomes a waste of everyone's time. Therefore, it is critical that the meeting organizers follow through on meeting objectives by sending meeting minutes to all relevant parties as a record of decisions made during the meeting, the action plan for next steps, and the designated roles and responsibilities assigned to achieve meeting outcomes. Sending meeting minutes also provides meeting details to anyone who is unable to attend. In addition to those actions, leaders must seek out employee feedback regarding meeting satisfaction to help mitigate the negative perceptions associated with meetings. Again, here is the checklist for tasks after the meeting. Follow up with the action items, evaluate the quality of the meeting, and reflect on how to make the next meeting better. In this video, I discuss the purpose of meetings and how to run meetings effectively. I hope the checklists I created for effective meetings is helpful for your leadership practices. I'll see you next week in This Week in Leadership Research.